Hello, hello. Kathy Burris here, showing up live late in the evening. I just got off of a Ripples call. Ripple is the name of one of my groups that I host, and we just had it was the final session, but it's actually the beginning of some new ways to do what we do by using the voice God gave us. And working with this group has been so good for me and so challenging in so many ways is in using my own voice. And I think the reason I've noticed it tonight is because today, if you've been following me, which I haven't been super consistent with showing up, but I've been doing 110 days of green hope. And 110 days is the time between our daughter Alicia's birthday on April 28th and the date of her anniversary. And what makes this year more significant and what makes me more verbal in sharing it with you is that this next month will be 20 years since she was gone. So it's a long time. And I remembered as I closed the Ripples group today, I was struck that 20 years ago, I didn't know if I'd ever use my voice again. I wanted to, but there was just such a brokenness and such a jaggedness in my heart that I couldn't speak. I didn't know what I was speaking. I was sharing some of my stories with friends and people that we were talking to, but I couldn't speak. And it took me 10 years to write the book Lovely Traces of Hope, which actually I started because Alicia used her voice in the back of her journal and started one chapter that started with my story. And she ended it with, and then I was born. And it took me 10 more years to write that, to get the words out. And even now as I look back through it, there's a lot of words, and I might not include all of them at this point. But at the same time, I needed to speak them, and many of you have read them and have shared that they've helped in some way. So here we are at 20 days, we're at day 90 now. So in 20 days will be the finale. I don't know if that's a right word for this, but the 110-day culmination. And I've been thinking, it took 10 years to get Lovely Traces of Hope out, to use my voice, my words, my message. It took 10 years to get that. And then I wanted to put that book on a shelf along with all my grief and get on with life, and I just couldn't. And it took the journey that I call Envision You now. And I'm using the book for some groups that I'm hosting, which I'll be hosting again in the fall. And it took 3 more years for me to understand that journey from my own life and then to share it with people. And now here we are at 20 years. And I was asked this question, after 20 years, what's the thing that you can tell me, this woman, what's the thing that you can tell me that can help me know how to care for people in my life that have experienced a significant loss? Now, it doesn't have to just be the loss of a child. It can be the loss of health or a relationship or a job, a dream. I mean, goodness, loss is universal, right? And her question was not so much what do I do with loss, because when we're dealing with loss, we deal with our loss because we have no choice. But her question was, what do I do when I'm walking with somebody that is dealing with loss? I don't know what to say. You ever felt that way? I have, and I've been one of those people. And I think I don't have a perfect answer for you on that. But my first response was, well, I think I'd write a book and the first, 200 pages would be blank. Because if you don't know what to say, just don't say anything. But the thing that I've realized is that the people who, I guess, made the biggest difference in my journey were not necessarily the people that would say things, but they would stay. They wouldn't necessarily say, but they would stay. And as I've thought about that, it's people that didn't expect me to feel like talking. People that there's so many. I should write them down so I can share them with you. But people use their voices in ways that didn't use words sometimes. And I needed that. I needed to not have more words coming in to my mind telling me that it's going to be okay, you're going to be all right. You know, God needed her worse than you did, all those things. I didn't need that. I just needed people to maybe just sit with me and listen to what words I might have to put out, because if you know me very good, you knew there were words, right? I needed people who could stay with me if I cried. I needed people who could stay with me if I needed to talk about Alicia, and that didn't scare them. I needed people that could stay in relationship even if I pushed them away. And there were some that I did because my emotions were so strong and I couldn't handle their emotions on top of mine. I may talk more about that over the next 20 days, but the awareness is that many times when somebody's going through something hard in your life, we don't need to say anything. We need to just stay. S-A-Y, S-T-A-Y. There's a huge difference in that. So it's day 20. We've got it's day countdown of 20 days. It's day 90. So I just want to give you a green, I don't know what I'll call it, a green hope challenge. And just think about, I wrote something down here I was going to share with you. Oh, a green practice. A green practice. I want you to reach out to somebody this week. Somebody who's carrying a loss. Somebody that you know is struggling in some ways and you don't know what to say. It's okay that you don't. You wouldn't want to know, because knowing would mean that you would have experienced something like that, and even then you don't always know what to say. So think about someone in your life that's carrying a loss, and just connect with them in some way that says, I see you, I'm walking close. You don't have to have them give you any answers. Just say, I'm still praying, I see you. Something that just acknowledges that you know it's hard. Will you do that? We're given green hope for the next 20 days intentionally in the 110 days of green, and we are down to the countdown. So join me in finding someone in your life. It doesn't take much to find someone because people are hurting. Find someone that you can just share with them. I see you. You don't have to have words. A hug, a smile, a hand reaching out, asking about them, the child, the person, asking about them. And I'm getting off track. So, my voice is coming back in a different way than it was 10 years ago. And you have a voice too. It may not be with words, maybe with action. Maybe with just loving and being in their presence. That's a voice as well. Use yours. And I'll talk to you later.